I haven't really delved into a whole lot of bipolar topics lately, very specifically, that would be relevant to people who are coming to this uh, page. So I wanted to put some effort into doing just that. I will mention that you'll see uh, blue and red light going on and off. I figured out how to program my LED strips to do red and blue because of the it being election time, campaigning time. And I'm afraid if I disconnect it, I won't be able to figure out how to get it back. So I apologize for that. I am very happy to announce, if you've watched any of my other videos, I have been painting this room for years. The motivation was not there. And so finally it's done. I can't say that it is picture perfect, but it is nice enough that I am super happy with it. I have one more task to do tomorrow, and then I plan on doing a little tour because I'm very proud of how it turned out. Um, and just having this space organized, pleasant to be in, um, it helps make my brain a little more streamlined um, and alive and positive. So I am a strong believer in that your environment affects your mental health and your physical health. Okay, so I wanted to talk about hospitalization. Now, I haven't been in a very long time for psychiatric admission. So we're going to be looking back at the first time I was, which would have been, I was 15 and turned 16. So that was 1985. What that was like and how different it was in the early 2000s. My late 20s, which would be the late 1990s. So, and it was each, I know I was in there more than 3 times, but I was so far gone that I don't remember even being there, or I don't remember, I remember the fact that I was there, but I don't remember what it was like. So, but I have 3 that are distinct to me. And they're very different in how things changed in psychiatric hospitalization. So the first time I was 15, and I do believe this was my first major bipolar episode, but it was put down as depression situational. There was, the situation was we had moved away and to get to better schools, and but I was a teenager and it took me away from my friends, and they would talk to me on the phone about everything they were doing and who was doing what with who, and it did get me depressed, but there was more to it because I was actually delusional. I had, this was the first time attempted to unalive myself, but not out of depression. I believed and this has happened to me more than once, that I was depressed, but I realized that, and this is my delusional mind, if I were to go to the other side, there was happiness waiting for me there, and I would finally be happy. And so I did very stereotypical things that I didn't know were stereotypical. I gave things away to my brothers. I cleaned up my room. I got dressed in nice, what I would consider nice clothes. I was a punk rocker, so it was pretty much black with black eyeliner, Susie and the Banshees, Bauhaus, that kind of thing. And I took a bath, which was even stranger that I got all dressed up and then took a bath. Well, no, sorry. I ingested some over the counter medication, then took the bath. Now, between the bath and taking the over the counter medication, which was actually no-dose in Byron, I mean, that's how innocent we were. We thought that was cool and, like on edgy, caffeine pills, something to hide from our parents. And what kids are doing now compared to that is just scary. But I had some of those. And so I lined them up by like color and size on my bed and took them one at a time, and with a Dixie cup of water, and took this bath. But I was in the bath, and I got a phone call, and it was a friend. And I took the call, and I got out of the tub, and I was talking to her, and she said something really weird. She was like, when I talked to you earlier today, you just sounded off, and I just wanted to call to make sure you were okay. Like she'd had some kind of secret, some sort of second sense about it, or stuff. Anyway, like it was just really weird because I didn't talk to anyone in a depressive type of way, but I must have been saying things to trigger that. And so I told her, I was like, well, yeah, I was really depressed, but I figured out a way for me to not be depressed anymore. And somehow she wheedled it out of me. She could always do that. And I told her what I'd done, and I was shocked that she didn't think I was. She didn't wasn't happy for me because I had finally found this answer to solution. And I was like, well, I have to finish what I'm doing, and got off the phone with her and went back into the bathtub. And not much longer, my parents came pounding on the door and opened this door immediately. And I said that I had ingested Tylenol because I thought it was innocuous, and it turns out I was wrong. And okay, so I go to the ER, I get the charcoal, I get the Ipecac, I get the, it just, and I'm saying, I don't want to die, I don't want to die. And nurse said, well, you should have thought of that before. And they weren't very, emergency rooms are not very kind to people who do this. They tend to feel like you're wasting time and resources. Well, time is a resource, but uh, that these type of emergencies aren't as important as other like gunshots and stuff, but it's just as deadly. Anyway, okay, I got kind of cut off there, so I'm gonna skip from ER, uh, the ER mess, get out of that. And then I was in the room with a doctor or a psychiatrist, and they gave me the option of, do I want to be inpatient or not? And I said yes, because I recognized I did need to get away from the situation that I was in to help fix my brain, because I could tell at that point, I was kind of scared straight, and I think the episode I was having was dissipating, and I was able to see that there was something very wrong with my thought process. And I was only 15, and I have been told all this time by therapists and that I have good insight, and that is like the biggest key to getting through this. Without good insight, it's gonna be twice as hard for you. Anyway, back to the, so I went inpatient, and you start out in level 1, there's level 2, level 3, you get more privileges, you get up to level 4, you can go with a buddy and walk around outside and stuff. But I was on my first day, I was locked in a room that had a little window, and someone would occasionally look in. And I made boats and planes with paper that was like some notebook paper that was on the desk, and I was playing like a war game on the floor. I was bored out of my mind, but they wouldn't let me have anything. And then you have like one-on-one when you're on level 1, and the setup was, it was a big rectangle, and if you're facing this faraway wall, the TV was there. There were some couches and like to make it a square, and then there were some round tables there where we ate, and the rooms, boys here, girls here, lined this rectangle, and the front of it, which would be the back to us, was the nurse's station, and it had a big glass window. And there was a music room that had a record player, and that was my salvation there. I did get special permission from my doctor that, well, I had this outburst. I'm trying, I can't remember what order the events went, but for some reason, I got in trouble because of one thing, and I got angry, and I threw a shoe across the room, and I got in trouble for that, and I got even more angry because I thought that was ridiculous. And so I was yelling, and they decided I was yelling at a nurse, and I may have said a threatening thing or two, like, and they called my psychiatrist, and then I had been planning to be able to go home for Thanksgiving, and they took that away from me. And that might be when I threw the shoe, but when the next day, when I saw my psychiatrist, whom I hated, um, she had a nurse sit in with us because on the phone, that's it, they called her when I was having this outburst, and I talked to her on the phone, and she's like, "What do you know, it was so Freudian. It wasn't like where they see you for a few minutes and then you get your therapy from a therapist. It was you get your medicine from the psychiatrist and therapy, and it's all very Freudian. This is 1985." And I said, "Well, I feel like I could just slap you right now if you were here." And so the next day, a nurse came in, and during our session, and it was explained to me because I had threatened the psychiatrist with physical harm or whatever. And I'm just like 4'11", 100 pounds at the most. Anyway, my psychiatrist was just insane. She would drink Tab soda and smoke Virginia Slims through our sessions every time, all the time. And at the time, I thought I was gay because asexual wasn't around, wasn't understood then, so it wasn't an option. And I was like, well, I have no desire to be intimate with boys, so I must be gay. I felt more comfortable around females, and I do find some very nice to look at, but I have no desire to engage. So at one point, she said something very out of the blue and weird. It was like, I was getting upset about something, and she's like, "Are you afraid that?" I was saying, no, I told her I didn't like her. And she's like, "Are you afraid I'm going to make a move on you or something?" And I'm like, "Oh, you're even creepier than I thought." And talk about creepy. There was this, I don't know if he was a director of adolescent psychiatry or if he was a psychiatrist. I don't remember. But on the weekends, he would take some of the teenagers to his farm for, I guess, some farm therapy. But even then, I knew something was really hinky about what was going on there. And like this one guy got in trouble because they found him in possession of marijuana, and he had just come back from this farm, and I'm like, how did he manage to hook himself up with marijuana? I don't know if you know where I'm going with this, so I'm not going to say it. I was there for a month, and I'll tell you why in a minute, and why people don't stay in for a month typically for bipolar. Most people. I at first I wanted to go in, but I was a perfectionist, and anything but perfection made me a downer, someone you did not want to be around. And for example, this was typical of me. They asked us to draw a tree that represented us. I know this one girl drew this like stump. And here I come with, I'm an apple tree and I'm in an orchard, but I have the best tasting apples and the most beautiful blooms, and all the birds and insects and bees flock to me. Um, and all the people that come adore me, because I'm just so much better looking. So, um, I have improved quite a bit with the perfectionism. I had to in nursing school. You have to lower. Sometimes getting a C, I got one C, is fine. But in high school, a C, even a B, would send me in a tizzy. So anyway, in the beginning, so I was very negative. This is typical. We had to play volleyball. I hate volleyball. I hate sports, but volleyball I hate. It hurts. I don't know how people do it without it hurting. But I would try to hit it, and it wouldn't go anywhere. It would just flop, or I'd miss it. And, being the counselors that they are meant to be, they would say, um, oh, nice try, good try, good try. And my response was, if it had been a good try, I would have made it over the net. So, and then I finally got to, well, first my roommate, I really liked my roommate. I walked in and she had a lot of the same bands I listened to, and we dressed similarly and had some similarities and issues. But she got discharged, and then this other girl came in, and she was, I don't belong here with these crazy people. I'm not one of these people. I don't belong here. She had downed a whole bottle of Tylenol and had to take lactulose to keep her liver from failing. But no, she didn't belong there. By the way, she took the Tylenol because her best friend went off with somebody else, and you know what I was thinking. I think you might have been a little bit in love with your best friend, because if they went off with someone and your immediate reaction is to down a bottle of Tylenol, I think there might be something there. But she came around, and we would do stuff like rearrange the furniture once and in our room, and then they came in and said, no, you have to put it back. So I get to about level 3, 4, getting permission to walk around the building, the hospital for so many minutes, and I started to decide I'm ready to get out of this place. And so at level 4, all of a sudden one day I'm going home. The medication was awful. Before Paxil, this is before Prozac. It's the old, I was on nortriptyline. You don't know a dry mouth until you've taken a tricyclic antidepressant. Constipation. Oh my. Oh, that awful. Feeling like you're a zombie. No energy. Cloudy thoughts. Miserable. I stopped taking them the minute I got home. In fact, I dispersed them evenly between 3 of my friends. What I had left in the bottle, I'm like, I am not taking these anymore. One really nice thing that really sticks in my mind about that hospitalization is I had this wonderful English teacher in high school. that class had made me get well cards the entire class. So I got this giant bag of get well cards from her and that class. And that was really nice, and other people were jealous of me. And they wouldn't let me. My dad brought me a poinsettia, and they took it away because it was poisonous. Um, and I thought that might have been what we had the argument about in the first place when I threw the shoe. And so, poof, 1 month after I'm admitted, I'm discharged. Not because I was fixed. I mean, I was over the episode a long time before, but they just kept keeping me. And that was everybody. And back then, well, my dad had good insurance. And back then, they just kept you until the insurance ran out. It is nothing like what happens now, where you get, you know, at the most a week or so uh, to get your mood a little bit in order, and then you go home and you have outpatient stuff. They didn't, that didn't happen. It was all inpatient. Um, let's see. There was this one girl that she came, and I remember she kind of was part of my circle of friends, which I found really weird, but we didn't interact ever outside. But, and I was a little bent out of shape because I was the smart one until she came along and was the smart one. And I wanted to know what the heck she thought she was doing there, because all she had were these like really tiny cuts on herself. I didn't know what that type of activity was, but it's obvious, she must have been suffering from something. But I was more concerned about being better and smarter, going back to my old ways. I mean, the perfectionism. I want to be the perfect one because I'm a perfectionist. But anyway, I'm gonna keep that as one video, and I'm gonna talk about 2 other hospitalizations that I have had. Let's see. I'll talk about the really, really bad one and the really, really good one. Talking in the late, around the early 2000s, those will be. So I'll stop this one now and record the other 2 later. Good night. I forgot to mention something very important, and that is the reaction of my friends when I got back home. Now we're talking, like 14, 15, 16-year-olds. They thought it was totally cool being that I was in the hospital, and kept asking me questions and wanting me to talk about it. And they just thought it was just really cool, and they wanted to do it too. What you think it's only a teenager that would think being locked up because you're crazy is cool? I I hope it's only teenagers, because it was not cool. It was not fun. I wasn't expecting it at all. that they would be jealous of that. I'm like, um, hello? I was in the ER. I was throwing up. They gave me stuff to throw up. They shoved something down my nose. I, I mean, it was like really traumatic. And they're like, oh, that's so cool. I want to go too. Like I'd gone to Disneyland or something.